Tokyo, Japan. My name is Gary Verheller, and I'll be your host for what we call the Substance of Living podcast. Today, we'll look at what we call life's lessons. And I hope this will provide you with some insight, maybe even some inspiration to life's challenges. Hello, and welcome to episode 15, Handling Questions. Now, let me give you a little background. I've helped many people successfully apply for MBA programs. And I've been very lucky in that they've been accepted to places like Harvard or MIT or Yale or Columbia or USC or Stanford or UC Berkeley. So well-respected schools. Now, the thing about an application for an MBA typically requires a number of things. Your resume or your CV, letter of references, essays that you write and answer, and then finally the interview. Well, the problem is the resumes and CVs, an applicant could hire a professional to write the resume, could hire a professional to write the CV, or could hire a professional to write the letters of reference, and hire a professional to write the essays, because that's all submitted electronically. But it's the interview. It's the interview that is key to being selected to a school, because you can't fake that. So I developed a step-by-step process on how to answer questions. The first step, and I suggest anytime you go into an interview, if it be for MBA or for a job, my suggestion is have a notebook with you and take notes. It shows respect for the event, and it shows respect to the person, and it shows that you recognize this is something from which I can learn and something that is beneficial. In fact, once when I was being interviewed by a president of a company, he was surprised when I said, "Do you mind if I take notes?" You're the first person in 20 years who's ever asked me that. I was shocked. I thought everybody did that. Nonetheless, so you have a notebook, and when you're asked a question, an interview question, or a question generally, write the question down and repeat the question as you write it down. This will show a definite interest in what you're doing, and will also show that you're serious, and it gives you time to think. It gives you time to think. Now that you've you've repeated the question, you've written it down, express interest and be sincere about this. If it is, that's truly an interesting question. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Or, well, I have thought about this and I've given some careful consideration to this idea. And then you're going to define. The next step is define. So the first one, repeat and write down. The second one, express interest. The third one is define. Now, what do I mean by define? Well, if they ask you a question filled with abstract concepts, and if you've listened to a previous episode, you know about abstracts and concrete. An abstract concept cannot be measured, weighed, or counted. For an abstract concept to have more value, you need to define it in concrete terms, which can be counted, measured, or weighed. For example, if somebody asks you the question, would you please tell us of your greatest failure? Most people are taken aback by that. Greatest failure? Failure is bad. But if you define it, you own the question. So what I would say to that is, well, let me define the word failure. For me, failure is when I fail to learn something. Or failure can also be when something fails to be successful in the way it's been predicted to be. So my greatest failure to me is when I've learned a lot, even though it was unsuccessful. So let me tell you about that. What I've just done is I've taken an abstract sentence that was really difficult and defined it for myself, and then I'm going to answer it. So define the abstracts in your terms. Then you give the answer. Following the answer, and this is also a very interesting idea, that I've found really does work. You want to engage. It's not just question, answer, question, answer. This is a human being you're talking to. So, my suggestion, and it seems to have worked with many people, is you ask, so what else can I tell you? Or what else would you like to know? So once again, the 5 steps are read and write the question down, repeat and write the question down. Number 2 is express an interest, a sincere interest. Number 3, define the abstracts. Own the question. Make it your own. Make the meaning yours, and then answer the question. And number 5 is ask. So what else can I tell you? Or what else would you like to know? This has served a number of people well, and I hope it does for you too. So, thank you. Thank you for joining us today for the Substance of Living podcast. If you'd be kind enough to consider subscribing, you can contact us through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or connect on Twitter. Join us again next time for what I hope will help you navigate life.